Hello friends, my name's Emile and welcome back to some more Gran Turismo 2. Today we'll continue on with our Let's Play. This is episode 93, and in today's episode of the Gran Turismo 2 Let's Play, we are going to be competing in the US National Championships. For that, of course, we need some American cars, and luckily for you guys, I've got some American cars just sitting in my garage. Our first car we're going to be using today is, well, a Gran Turismo 2 classic. This is the Dodge Intrepid, 243 horsepower, 1,363 kilograms. I did some slight power and tyre upgrades to this thing, but other than that, this thing is basically stock, other than, of course, the racing modification as well, which is probably one of the more popular racing modifications in the Gran Turismo series. Anyways, as you can see, all the races are at Laguna today. I'm going to start with the first one, which has a limit of 246 horsepower. Luckily, the Intrepid fits just under that. Let's get into the racing. Okay, as you can see on track, we have some pretty similar cars to our Intrepid. Admittedly, they don't look as cool, but they are relatively similar. We have a Ford Focus. We have two Ford Focuses, actually. A Ford Ka, a Ford Puma, and I believe that's a Ford Taurus, or it could be an Intrepid actually, I don't really know. I don't know my American cars too well, especially sort of the more mundane family American cars, because we don't usually get most of them over here. One of the ones that we definitely don't get over here is the Dodge Intrepid. And, well, this car actually we didn't know about when I was originally playing Gran Turismo 2. However, when I sort of got into watching certain videos on Gran Turismo 2 and so on, I actually found out about the Dodge Intrepid's race modification, and while I was instantly as fixed on it, it is a fantastic race mod, this. To be fair, this actual car itself isn't too exciting when you first buy it. It has about 210 horsepower, so that sort of means, you know, you wouldn't really expect much out of the racing modification. You wouldn't even really expect it to have a racing modification. However, you can, of course, turn it into this sort of dragster-esque vehicle. Rumours abound that that is due to the drag racing, which was supposed to be included in Gran Turismo 2, and this, along with the two other drag cars, the R33 and the 180SX, are just sort of remnants of that. And, you know, the whole drag racing thing, it isn't a myth or anything. There was genuinely supposed to be drag racing in this game. If you look at the opening credits on the arcade mode, you can actually see a track pop-up called Palm Strip, which wasn't actually in the game, and I believe that later actually appeared in Gran Turismo 4 as one of the drag tracks on that game. So drag racing was definitely meant to be in it, and the Intrepid, by the looks of it, was going to be a car which you could customise to be a drag racer. Whether there were just any more vehicles that you would be able to race mod into a dragster, we don't know. Power wise, it is front wheel drive, but you can actually get a surprising amount of power out of this. I believe I may have got 513 horsepower out of it, or I could have been daydreaming. Otherwise, I'd say about 300-ish. It's one of the more powerful front wheel drive cars in the game, that's for certain. The stock power itself isn't too bad for a front wheel drive. 216 horsepower isn't really shabby. So yeah, I mean, it's a pretty cool vehicle. Handling wise, at least here, isn't the greatest. The suspension is a little bit wallowy, it is a little bit understeery, but nevertheless it's still a pretty darn cool car, and I had to use this thing before the end of this LP just because it has the most mad racing mod. To be fair, it's actually a tie-up between this and the Ford Taurus, because you can turn the Taurus into a oh god, what do you call them? NASCAR. An oval racer, if you will. Admittedly, the version that's in this game isn't as cool as the version that was originally in the game, in version 1.0, which was, I believe it was Jimmy Johnson. His NASCAR was in the game, whereas now if you customise the Taurus, it just becomes a more generic NASCAR, but it's still a pretty cool race mod nevertheless. Anyways, as you can see, wasn't really troubled by my competition there. Their cars were a little bit slower than that 246 horsepower limit would make you think. Either way, the Puma came in second, Focus in third. Ford KA surprisingly gets fourth, the Focus gets fifth, and it was an Avenger. Oh, a Dodge Avenger. Okay, I didn't actually know that. All I know is what the modern Avenger looks like, so yeah. Anyways, as you can see, we won. We get 4,000 credits for winning. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention this for some reason. You don't get any prize cards for completing for competing in the Nationals. Anyways, let's head back to the garage and get our second vehicle of the day. Okay, now let's head back to the garage and get our second car. Now, interestingly, this second car was actually going to be used for one of the endurance races. However, I ended up passing it up for the Dodge Viper. That car is the Chevrolet Camaro Z28 30th Anniversary Edition. As you all know, I'm not usually a fan of Camaros, however I do have to admit this particular generation I don't mind, and the 30th Anniversary Edition is pretty darn cool. Anyways, let's head into the second event. I've done no upgrades to this Camaro because it fits the horsepower limit just about, and I don't really feel like I needed to do any upgrades to it. So yeah, let's head into that second race. Okay, we are back at Laguna Seca, and well, the competition has gotten a little bit better, but still I don't really think there's anything that could scare our Camaro away. We have a Ford Cougar, it could be Mercury Cougar, a Ford Mondeo, a Plymouth Spider, a Stratus, and a Ford Taurus. So pretty mundane, averagey vehicles. One thing I do find kind of amusing in these American events is the fact that they throw in cars like the Ford Ka, the Ford Puma, and the Ford Mondeo, all of which were not sold in America. Now, I mean, technically, yes, the Mondeo was sold in America. It was sold as the Ford Contour, but yeah, I mean, none of those other vehicles were really sold in America, which is a little bit strange. Anyways, Chevrolet Camaro 30th Anniversary Edition. As you all know, not a huge fan of Camaros. However, I really like the 90s IROC Z. That is probably my favourite generation of Camaro overall. However, this is definitely second best for me. I really like the way this thing looks. Power isn't too bad. I mean, admittedly, obviously it's still a 90s muscle car, so it hasn't quite got its act together yet. I believe this is one of the better models. Actually, no, the SS is the slightly better model. That pushed about 300-ish horsepower. This one's topping out 285 horsepower stock, which still isn't particularly bad. Admittedly, compared to your more modern muscle cars, and even, to be fair, the ones in the 60s, it's not very good, but, you know, it's still a reasonable amount of power, especially considering the time frame for this vehicle. The only thing I really don't like about this vehicle is its wing mirrors. Also the fact it's a Chevrolet, but we'll ignore that. The wing mirrors are actually from a Vauxhall Vectra B. Actually, technically it's the first generation of Vauxhall Vectra over here. However, anyone from Europe will call it an Opel Vectra B because the Cavalier was called a Vectra in other parts of the world. And yeah, it has exactly the same wing mirrors as that car, and that car was extremely boring. And unfortunately, as cool a design as the wing mirrors are, every time I look at them, they just remind me of a Vauxhall Vectra, which is never a good thing. Overall handling on this vehicle is pretty good, actually. It definitely drives better than my Intrepid did. It's a lot nicer through the corners. There's definitely a lot more balance in the whole weight and so on. Through the corners it's pretty good, a little bit slidey, and I kind of cocked up the corkscrew there. But it's definitely not a bad car to drive, actually. I've got to say, I am pretty impressed with this. Probably one of the better muscle cars I've driven during this series, because I mean the only other real muscle car I drove was the Plymouth Superbird. And maybe the Dodge Viper if you count that as a proper muscle car, although I don't really, I count it more as a super muscle car. Anyways, surprisingly enough, the pack has actually stayed with me pretty solidly, actually. On the straights it looks like I can get away from them. To be fair, it might just be because I messed up the corkscrew and that last corner there. Either way, we're across the line in the Camaro. The Dodge Stratus came second, Plymouth PT Spider in third, Ford Mondeo in fourth, Ford Cougar in fifth, and the Taurus came in sixth. So there was 3 Fords in the field and they all did the worst. That's not a good advertisement for your Ford. But don't worry, because, spoiler alert, our next car is going to be a Ford, so hopefully we can get some pride in that blue oval. Anyways, let's go and find our third car for our third and final race. Okay, let's go and find that third and final vehicle. And our third and final vehicle is going to be a Ford Mustang. an SVT Cobra to be exact. 367 horsepower, 1,384 kilograms. As you can see here, I have done some stuff to this. It's running racing soft tires, sport brakes, computer, full weight reduction, and then NA tune-up. So yeah, a pretty powerful vehicle. Not really sure what's going to show up in this last race. I was kind of expecting C4 Corvette, so that's why I've tuned this vehicle up pretty highly, because our horsepower limit is 394 horsepower, and there's a lot of American cars that could show up to this event. So let's get into it and see how well we can do. Okay, as I suspected in this race, we have a Shelby GT350, which is actually a car you should really fear, as we found out in the Apricot Hill Endurance. There is a Shelby Series 1, a Dodge Challenger, a Corvette C4 Grand Sport, and I believe there is also a Camaro up front. So we've actually got a decent competition in this race. So I'm not actually sure how our SVT Cobra will fare. That's how it's going to fare, because through the corners this thing is amazing. To be fair, a lot of people say the way to win at Gran Turismo is to run a car on super softs, and yeah, I can kind of get you on that. However, I do have to admit, once you drive sort of vehicles that aren't running, you know, aren't just running the stock tyres, or maybe they're running racing hards or something, to get back into a vehicle with racing softs, it is great. However, if you switch between vehicle to vehicle with super softs, honestly, you don't really sense that much of a difference, and you actually start thinking the super softs don't really do anything. But as soon as you clamber back into that vehicle with the super softs, you're like, oh my god. Admittedly, this thing is only running softs, however the softs are still pretty darn good when it comes to this game. There we go, break into here. A little bit slidier through there. Then the Camaro. Admittedly, everything else seems to be a lot slidier through there as well, so it's not like it's going to make that much of a difference. Brakes are pretty darn good. Then again, I did spend $4.5 grand upgrading them, so I would of course expect the brakes to be better than they are stock. I will say, lower speed it seems slidier than the Camaro. However, at sort of your medium and high speed corners, this thing is pretty much spot on. Yeah, this is by far and away the quickest car we've driven today. To be fair, I was looking at those lap times with the Camaro. I don't actually think the Intrepid was too far off the lap times the Camaro set, which is kind of surprising, considering that Intrepid, as much as it had the racing modification on it, it's still, or at least I didn't personally think it would be as quick as the Camaro, but apparently it was, which is kind of surprising. Anyways, this Mustang is basically blowing away the field because it is very, very good. Again, I was expecting sort of stiff competition in this race. In the Camaro race, everyone stayed relatively close together. To be fair, that Series 1 is pretty close. However, unless I like cock up majorly in the corkscrew on the final corner, I think I should be okay when it comes to this. To be fair, maybe I should have gone for one of those vehicles, but I kind of wanted to use a Mustang, because with these, Series 1 has had a bit of a slide. Because with these national races, because there's so many cars I wanted to use, I also wanted to go for like a good variety, so like I didn't want to use too many cars from one manufacturer in each race, so I've decided to sort of spread it out. So in this particular race we've had a Dodge, we've had a Chevrolet, and we've had a Ford, so equality for everyone, yay. Anyways, as you can see, this car is down quick around the track at 127, finishes the day of racing off. Now onto the actual pack itself. And the Shelby Series 1 came in second, Shelby GT350 in third, Camaro SS in fourth, the Grand Sport surprisingly goes in fifth, and the Challenger, unsurprisingly, is in sixth. It does surprise me a Camaro beats a Corvette. I don't think that was supposed to happen, but there you go. Anyways, that is that. We get 7,000 credits for popping along and doing this race, which is excellent, and I'll see you guys in a second. Okay, there we go. As you can see, that is the US National Championships over and done with. In the next episode, we're going to be taking on the British National Championships, so join me for that. Anyways, friends, that is going to be it for today's episode of the Gran Turismo 2 Let's Play. I do hope you've enjoyed, and as always, I want to thank you all very much for watching. My name has been the Real Emile, and until next time, farewell.